We're studying a story found in the book of Acts, the 27th and 28th chapters of Paul's shipwreck. I'm calling it Sailing Again, Sailing Again. This is lesson 3. We have looked at stormy seas. We looked at surviving shipwreck. This one I'm simply going to call it Sailing Again. And it shows what has to happen after the shipwreck is over. Our text is found in Acts, the 28th chapter, verses 1 and 2 is where we will start. Now, when they had escaped, this is everybody that was on board the ship, they're all safe. They found out that the island was called Malta, and the natives showed us no unusual kindness. For they kindled a fire and made us all welcome because of the rain that was falling and because of the cold. Here's the first point that I see in Sailing Again. Build a fire. Build a fire. That's right. Don't just sit and complain about your problems. So many people, they'll spend so much time telling you about their latest problem, what has gone wrong in their life. No, get up and start doing something good. See, experiencing a shipwreck is not the end. We are still here. The boat is gone. The boat is destroyed. The cargo is gone, but every life was saved, and that was a miracle. A miracle. So experiencing the shipwreck, it's not the end of your life. Get up and start doing something to bless someone. Build a fire. Start looking around. Anything that you can do to help someone. That's good leadership, and that's what we see. See, good leaders are proactive. They don't just sit and wait for something to happen. They start doing things which creates the opportunity for good things to happen. I used to think that good leaders made it happen, but I've discovered that only God really can create things. But what good leaders do, they have the influence, they set the atmosphere for good things to happen. They're positive. They begin doing things. It becomes like a domino effect. And these little things that they do that starts a chain reaction. So get up and do what you can do. Build a fire. But in building the fire, my second point would be watch for snakes. Watch for snakes. You find in this story, Acts the 28th chapter and verse 3, but when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, a viper came out because of the heat. In other words, the snakes don't like the fire, and fastened on his hand. Now notice, Paul has gathered a bundle of sticks. If he had only picked up 1 or 2 sticks, he would have seen that's a snake, and he wouldn't have picked it up. But no, he grabs a bundle of sticks. Now that shows me something. Paul is doing what he can do, as much as he can do. Now, I question you. Are you doing what you can do, or are you doing as little as you possibly can to just get by? Now, in this bundle of sticks, there was a snake. Paul didn't know the snake was in the bundle of sticks, but the snake is hiding there. And here's my point. The devil is an opportunist. He's an opportunist. He's always looking for those opportunities when he can strike, when he can hurt us. And what you discover is the devil will attack us when we least expect it. Here Paul is doing something good. And out of this bundle of sticks, as he goes to put it on the fire, the serpent is revealed and it fastens to his hand. Oh, so many people say that's the way life is. You just go from bad to worse. And they're so negative in life. Paul is not that way. No, we need to do what Jesus said here. In Matthew, the 26th chapter and verse 41, Jesus said, watch and pray. Now notice that. He didn't just say pray, but he says, watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. Learn to pray with your spiritual eyes open. It's okay to close your natural eyes just so you can focus on prayer at times. Though other times I would advise you keep your eyes open. I love to walk when I'm praying, and it just keeps me alert. I've learned to, pray with my eyes open, because he said, the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. You cannot trust the flesh. No, I can't trust my flesh. I can't trust anyone else's flesh. The carnal nature will always deceive us. The devil will take advantage of that. And so you've got to be alert, because yes, the serpent is hidden somewhere, and he will strike you when you least expect it. Now here's the third thing. The third thing that I see in sailing again is what I'm going to call shake the snake. Shake the snake. And I take this from the 5th chapter, Acts 28:5. But he, Paul, shook off the creature into the fire and suffered no harm. Now, I can see some people, they say, my, God is against me. The heavens are against me. Here, I'm a prisoner and I'm in a storm and I get to shore, now a snake bites me. No, Paul doesn't do that. See, good leaders do not focus on their own pain. Yes, it hurts when the serpent bites. It always hurts. But just shake the snake into the fire and keep on keeping on. Keep building the fire. That's what Paul does. He just keeps finding more wood to put on the fire. Now, that's what you've got to do in life. Sure, there are things that happen that shouldn't happen. People do things they shouldn't do. But don't let that deter you from doing what you should do. Keep building the fire. Keep doing what you can to do good things, to encourage people, to help people, because you never know when God is going to take and turn it into something miraculous, something wonderful. Now, the fourth point that I will make concerning this is what I call don't swell up. Don't swell up. And I take this out of the story in verse 6, Acts 28:6. It said, however, these are the people from the island and the soldiers and sailors from the ship, they were expecting that he would swell up or suddenly fall down dead. Don't do that. Don't do that. In other words, don't allow the serpent's poison to enter your heart. Don't take it to heart. Now, I remember a man telling about, he was talking to his wife that he'd been struggling with the problem of anger. And he said, I would have outbursts of anger, and I was really working hard to control my tongue and, bring my anger under control and turn it into something that was positive. And he said, I felt like I was making good progress. So I asked my wife one day, honey, how am I doing? Am I controlling my anger better? And she said, yeah, you're doing much better controlling your anger. She said, now you just pout. In other words, swell up. We can still tell you're angry because the way that you're acting, the way you're responding. Don't swell up, friend. Don't take that into your heart. Now, this is one of the difficult things about leadership. Anyone that is in leadership is going to be accused, it's going to be attacked, it's going to happen. It just comes with the position. But don't pay much attention to it. Sometimes they're telling you the truth, and so learn from the truth, but the rest of it, just ignore it. Don't take it to heart, and because we tend to take these things personal. The truth is, life is not about me. Life is not about you. Life is about God and His kingdom. That's what it's all about. It's not about us. And so shake the snake. Don't swell up. Just keep on building the fire. Now, the fifth thing that I see in this story is what I'm going to call don't follow public opinion. Public opinion. It's always there. In this story, Acts the 28th chapter, verse 4, it says, so when the natives saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to one another, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom, though he has escaped the sea, yet justice does not allow him to live. But after they had looked for some long time and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said, he was a god. Now the truth of it is, the public opinion in both cases here is wrong. He was not a criminal, neither was he a god. He was a man of God. That's who he was. Now, good leaders learn this. Good leaders learn that public opinion is fickle. As someone has said about the weather, if you don't like the weather, stick around for about 30 minutes, it'll change. And it does. You never know which way the wind is going to start blowing next. Oh yes, the wind comes and it goes and it changes, it cycles around, and sometimes it blows from the west, sometimes from the east, sometimes from the north, sometimes from the south. That's the way it is with public opinion. Public opinion, because it's based on people's emotions, what they're feeling at that particular time. And that's why it is so fickle. One of the worst things about our government in the nation of the United States right now is we are basing far too much of our decisions on public opinion. And the reason is because that is unstable. It's unstable. Public opinion today will be different tomorrow. It'll be different next month. It is swayed so easily whichever direction the wind blows. Good leaders understand that. And so they don't allow public opinion to be the basis for their decision making. Another way we can say this is if we spend too much time looking over our shoulder, then we can't watch where we're going. I've seen people like that. I've seen preachers like that. They're like politicians. They're always testing the congregation to see what we should do next. That's not good leadership. It's a true story of a pastor I know that he was confronted. Pastor, you're not giving us clear vision. Just show us what you want us to do and we'll do it. And so he calls his men together and he says, men, it's been brought to my attention I've not been casting clear vision. And so I ask you, what do you think we ought to do? That's not leadership. That's poor leadership. Good leadership is knowing where God wants us to go. Only God can give us that direction. So if we're always taking a poll of the people to try to determine what should we do next, then our leadership is always going to be fickle as the wind. It will be like public opinion that is controlled by emotion. Listen to the words of the Apostle Paul. This is back in Acts the 27th chapter and verse 23. Paul says, the God to whom I belong and whom I serve. Boy, he has brought it down into two simple statements. Number one, I belong to God. Number two, I am serving God. Now this is good leadership. Good leaders know who they are. The basis for their decision making is not based on public opinion. It's based on the relationship with God. And because they know God, they know they are serving God, they're able to make good decisions, even in difficult times. That's why this story of sailing again, the Apostle Paul is able to reach his destination, which is Rome. I'm going to Rome. I'm going to be preaching in Rome. And so God has given me everybody that's on board this boat. Now, here's the sixth point that I want to make in this story. The sixth point is what I'm going to call keep the main thing the main thing. It's been well said. Keeping the main thing is the main thing. That is so true. Keeping the main thing the main thing. In this story, Acts the 28th chapter and verse 8. And it happened that the father of Publius, Publius was the leader, the governor over this island. The father of Publius lay sick of a fever and dysentery. Paul went in to him and prayed and laid his hands on him and healed him. Now, that's good leadership. Good leaders are always looking for opportunities. That's right. Even shipwrecked upon an island. An island, they didn't even know the name of it until they got on the island. But he finds this sick man. Here's an opportunity. This is something I can do. He goes in, lays hands on him, prays for him, heals him. Good leaders are doing that. They're always looking for the opportunity. And so it says in verse 9, so when this was done, the rest of those on the island who had diseases came and were healed. Do you see what Paul has done? Paul has taken a shipwreck and he has turned it into a healing revival. Oh my. I respect this man so much by seeing the way that he just lives his life. He's not out screaming and shouting, I'm the Apostle Paul. No. He's simply leading with his life, with his example. And he's taken a very bad situation, a terrible situation that was a disaster. They lost the ship and everything that was on it. And if it had not been for Paul, they would have lost their lives as well. Thank God for Paul. But now that he's on the island, he's taken this shipwreck and he's turned it into a healing revival. Everybody that is on this island that is sick is coming and he's praying for them and God is healing them. Now, what the leadership point that I see in this is we grow spiritually to the extent that we are willing to give ourselves away. Paul he's not thinking about himself. He's thinking about people. He's thinking about others, those that are around him. And so because of this, he is able to take, and before he leaves there, he's already started a church. This is true church planting. And no churches on this island. They've never heard the gospel before. But Paul takes it as an opportunity to present Jesus Christ. Wow, that is good leadership. Good leadership that can take a difficult situation and turn it into evangelism. He can take a shipwreck and turn it into a church. My, that is good leadership. God help us to learn from his example. Now, the seventh point that I want to make in this story is start sailing again. Start sailing again. This is what you read in Acts the 28th chapter and verse 11. After 3 months, we sailed in an Alexandrian ship whose figurehead was the twin brothers, which had wintered at the island. In other words, because of the bad weather, the storms that come on the sea, they couldn't do their navigation in the winter months. They had to find a place to harbor, and this ship had been there. And so now after 3 months, the winter is over, and they're ready to start sailing again. I notice it says after 3 months. And what that says, you need to take the time to recover from your storms. Storms take things out of us. They drain us, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally. They drain us, they sap us. And you need to take the time to recover. It's why I counsel people that have gone through a very difficult time in their life, a divorce, or they've gone through a death of someone that was very close to them. And you need to take time to heal from that. And it does take time. It takes time. Take the time to recover before you start making important decisions. Before you start trying to sail again, take the time that is necessary to heal. But then, after you've taken the time, why camp by a wrecked ship when we can start sailing again? This is a new opportunity, a new day. 3 months later, they say, the bad weather is over now. The winter is past. It's time for us to start toward Rome again. We haven't reached our destination. And I'm saying the same thing to you. I know it's true in your life because you're still here. You're listening to me. And because we are still here, it shows sometimes we need some time to recover. But after you've recovered, start sailing again. And so they start sailing toward Rome. Now, what I see concerning leadership is good leaders are always looking for encouraging signs. The winter is over. It's time for us to start sailing again. Start looking for encouraging signs. When they start sailing toward Rome, they land in Italy, and when they do, I will point out, look for other believers. That's right. Look for good people. There are good people out there. Oh, they're all around us. No, not everybody is a good person. I acknowledge that. But there are some good people. Find them. Find them. Look for other believers. For instance, in Acts the 28th chapter, in verse 13, he says, when we came to Puteoli, where we found brethren, and were invited to stay with them for 7 days. Notice this. Paul is on his way to Rome, and yet he finds some other believers. Get up, get started, and God will send new people to help us. Start looking for believers. Start looking for good people. They're out there. We simply have to find them. In Acts the 28th chapter, verses 14 and 15, it says, and so we went toward Rome, and from there, when the brethren heard about us, they came to meet us as far as Appii Forum and the Three Inns. Now notice, not only did he find other brothers, but now other brothers are finding him. No doubt these men that he has found are telling, the Apostle Paul is here. This is Paul, the one we've heard about starting the churches in Asia. This is Paul the Apostle. And so the talk is going around. They're seeking him out. And it says in Acts the 28th chapter and verse 15, when Paul saw them, he thanked God and took courage. Boy, even leaders need that. Even leaders need to be encouraged. And so Paul is finding places, sources of encouragement, not just from God. Yes, that's where it all originates, is from God. But Paul has found other believers, and now other believers are finding Paul. It is an encouragement to him. See, this is what we need to do with our circumstances in life. That there are some things that are beyond our control, but if we will do what we can do, God will help us do what we cannot do. And so there comes a point where we need to start sailing again. Yes, there are stormy seas. They happen to all of us. And these circumstances, that Paul was a prisoner. He did not have authority over the ship. He could not stop them from sailing. All he could do was advise them. But when the storm came, they realized Paul had been right. Then God gave him everybody that's on board in the midst of the stormy sea. They survived the shipwreck because of Paul's good counsel. He's able to counsel them so that everybody on board was saved. Now they're sailing again. Now, that's what I challenge you. There comes a point in your life when you need to stop worrying and start sailing again. You need to get up and stop talking about the past. We're still here. We still have a future. This is a new day. This is a new year. This is a new opportunity. What are we going to do with it? The Apostle Paul starts toward Rome because he said, God has told me I'm going to preach the gospel there as well. I'm going to testify of Jesus Christ in Caesar's court. And because Paul was focused upon his objective, because of his relationship with God, he not only had saved the men's lives that were on board the ship, he was influencing everyone that was around him. Now that's the way I want to live. I want to live my life in such a way, in such a manner that everybody can say, that's a man of God. That's a man that you can trust. That's a man that has character. Now, that's influence. And that's what leadership is all about. So, what are you fretting about? Sure, you've been through a storm. Yes, it's been a disaster. Yes, I'm not demeaning what you've been through. I'm not demeaning the pain. But I'm simply telling you, we're still here. There are no accidents with God. We are here with divine purpose. God has something He wants to accomplish in our life. We simply need to find and understand the purpose of God. For Paul, it was taking the gospel to the highest authority of the civilized world, Caesar's court. And before it was over, Paul would pen in his letter and he would say to Timothy, those of Caesar's household have believed also. The gospel had made it to Rome. The gospel had made it even into Caesar's court because of the relationship that Paul has with God. That's influence, godly influence. And it's not just for him, it's for every person that will learn these principles, that will learn from his example and follow that example. God can make you a person of influence, and God can help you to start sailing again. Stop sitting by a wrecked boat. Get up. Let's start moving toward our objective. Fulfill your destiny, the purpose for which God has put you here. Start sailing again, friend, and live your destiny. Fulfill your purpose that God has given you in life. Let's sail again.